Hi everyone, good afternoon. Today I'm talking about basics of UI design. So in this session, I'm going to cover a couple of the topics, which is flow diagram and visualizing the requirement, which is can be any sort of the sketches or diagram, any sort of visually communicate what actually can try to give the look for the UI, and we can talk about the UI components. So which UI components communicate effectively and how we can pick from the in the current world. Let's start with a flow diagram. Before going to start flow diagram, what is actually communication? Any UI or UX, any sort of the communication is more effective uh, for the end user. This is one of the research done. 64% communication is more effectively we can grab the attention for the user. So there is so much importance of the communication in the UI. So before going to start sort of the uh, flow diagram, so I would like to start with a user story. So why I'm taking the user story, so we can easily connect dots, how to create a diagram, flow diagram, how to create the visualizing these user story, and how we can communicate effectively using UI components. Okay, so here one of the user story, it is uh, describes the uh, user. So the user is easily able to go the live streaming, so various features, and uh, interact with the live session. So this is the simple user story. So any user story, so it has some users, right? So these are the users. So the users are defined. My user scenario is defined. So precondition and acceptance criteria is not much needed. So the main criteria is I need to define the users. What are my users and what is my user story? So now I have a story. I have a audience. Now, how to connect dots? Because the user story is described in a paragraph or text format. As a BA, how can I communicate these user story in an effective way for the rest of the team and or the stakeholders? So one of the way is flow diagram. So I think everybody knows about flow diagram. So the flow diagram has so many uh, shapes where you can know the diamond shape describes the yes or no, where the user sign-ins. This is the direction. If it is not, so another direction. So this is the typical scenario where flow diagram start and end, and there is a conditions. But today I'm not talking about this flow diagram. So I'm giving the new uh, diagram which can be easily communicate anybody if they don't have any knowledge. So this is called UFD. So what is UFD? UFD stand for Universal Flow Diagram. So what are the rules if I want to create a flow diagram based on the story? So I started with a story. Okay, I have a story. Now using this UFD, how can I draw flow diagram? So there is a three rules, where the first rule is the landing page. So it should start with the landing. So any flow diagram, if I'm going to draw, that should be start with the landing page or home page. This is the first rule. And second rule is the simple arrows connected which each step. Okay. And the third rule is the end in the mind. So what is end goal for the user story? So these are the three main rules for the creating UFT. So we can go back to the what is my user story. So I know as a user, I should able to navigate through a live stream and use the various features of the live streaming. Okay, so this is the typical user story. Now I want to create a UFT. Okay, now I'm jumping to UFT. So as I told, there is a three rules. One is landing. So my UFT start with a landing page. Okay, and end goal will be event booking. So I have a 2 points as I described first rule. Now I'm connecting these dots from landing page to end. So here I have a two navigations, which is by menu or any sort of navigation which is available in my application. So I'm describing whatever the possible ways. There is only two ways I can reach this end. So I'm listing the all the possibilities from my user story. I'm describing the channel and events. These are the typical two flows. I can go to the next level. So, for example, I'm going from the channel where I can see the vocal enthusiastic and where I can jump into the music fanfare. So this is the one route. And another route, events. Then I'm going to jump into scheduled events. If it is a saved events, if I am a repeated user, so I can see that is also you have to describe where the typical scenario, if we are talking about scheduled events, then I'm going to the same point. So these steps you have to describe to make a UFT, universal flow diagram. So then from here, I want to book. There is a two options. I want to book and save for later. So what it means, I can go come back again and book my whatever the saved events. So now I have an option payment, then book. So this is the entire typical flow. Whatever the BA is understand, whatever the story is written in the detailed manner in the text format. So I described all the steps, whatever the possibility was, but this is not the stick to the user story. Whenever you want to change any of these steps, you can include or delete. So that is up to your whatever the demand is happens. Sometimes the client who don't want to these many steps, he want to make a simple flow. You can adjust these UFT diagram. Okay, now I drawed something. Okay, whatever I have a user story, I simply quickly jump into this UFT created. Now my next step will be visualizing. So this is also not able to understand by the client or any developer or any sort of the designer. So you have to communicate with the visualizing anything, right? So next step will be visualizing. So I would recommend the pencil and paper is the most effective tools to communicate anything by or writing down all the design. So here you can see there is a blocks of the page. So there is an image, there is a event detail, title, event button, favorite and book, or navigation. So this you can quickly create. So what is the advantage? It is very powerful and effective, less time to sketch. if you want to draw the same thing using any tool, say for example, any sort of thing, you have to master or you have to learn something. But using a pencil and paper, very easy, and anybody can able to draw quickly. Hey, this is the user story. This is the scenario I created, and can you create a high fidelity for this? So you are articulating a text format story in a visualizing manner. Okay, so it is very simple, and you are suggesting this pen and paper drawing the sketches. Is it really using in the real-time world? Yeah, I can give you the real-time world who are using. This is effectively using by the Facebook, Twitter, and Microsoft and Google. So whenever they want to draw something in any story, so they can jump into quickly in a pen and paper, draw something. So they share and they can communicate. Okay, this is the uh, um, a user story. I'm visualizing the. This is the manner. So is it correct? Is it really solving the user story? So that is how this is a very universal and everybody is using. So the next step would be describing. So you drawn something, and you have to describe. So what are the elements? Say for example, it is a home page. You are mentioning the banner. If it is a hero banner, if it is a menu, so each and every element, if you describe, this is the title comes in here, this is the company image comes here, and this is a small text, and this is the CTC action item. So these are the very less time to draw using pen and pencil, paper. And next, if you are familiar with some of the already freeware tools like Draw.io, so where you can use these tools and drag and drop these iPhone frames, and you can create the components to communicate very effectively. So this is the next level. So this is up to you how to you want communicate the UI, and this is very helpful to share very quickly. And this is one of the add-on from the Google pack, which is already LM is providing. And coming to pen and paper, so I suggest A4 paper is very easy, and pencil and any color sketch pen is very helpful. Say for example, in this screenshot, so I drawn one of the area where it has a picture, and it has a logo, and it has some other elements, navigation, sign in, sign up, and every element, if you draw some arrow and describe, hey, I'm thinking this could be a user uh, name and picture. So you can describe what is this, and you can describe, okay, this is the main hero image, and you can describe this image could be this is sizes, and you can describe this is the where the video play, and you can describe the this is the component for selecting these the events, and this is the area where I can favorite and go back. So it helps the next level of the team members can easily understand without the making too many forward and backward reaching out you to, hey, what is this means, what is actually you are trying to communicate. So this is the effective way of the describing with the arrows every element in the design. So this is another set of the design we try to communicate using same pencil and paper. So I drawn some of the flows and using sketch pen. So I'm just highlighting the CTCs, click to action items. So and describing the flow. Say for example, I drawn 4 screens, so it describes where I can select and go back to one of the screen and select and say okay. Then I'm jumping to one of the screen. So if you drawn side by side and make a arrow connections, so it gives a whole story for the scenario. So that is the advantage of the paper, pencil, and using the sketch pen. And once you're done with this, so how can I share the team? So is there any way? Yeah, there is a tool called Adobe Scan where you can install it. Is a freeware in your mobile. So you can take a picture and where you can write off all the any elements if you want. You can tweak some of the elements and you can share across the team. So this is one of the very easy. And coming to elements, so elements are placing any sort of pages. Say for example, I have a page and placing all the elements. It is always communicating the users what I can do with this page. Okay, so if you are randomly uh, placing the components, say for example, I'm placing the hero banner at the top left, and I'm keeping the some of the menu items in the right section. So it is also communicating, okay, I can go on the right side and click on menu if I want to go. So the same thing, if you move it to the left side of the page, that is also communication where I can go here and click. But there is a way of the communication using this effectively. So if you use trendy components, trendy elements, it is more effective way of giving the user to use very less time to achieve the goal. So I recommend one of the material UI where you can go and explore the lot of components. Say for example, nowadays any UI components are not traditionally uh, uh, evolving. Say for example, in this scenario, multi-values, where I can start typing, I can get the suggestion, then I can pick from that list. Then it is giving as a one of the reference where I can see always. If I want to close, I can just click. It will go from my list. So this is not a traditional way. This is customized components. There is a powerful interaction. So try to use these kind of modernized UI components to make it very robustic interaction. Okay, so coming to overview. So we know how to flow diagram using different tools and user story and visualizing the requirement and using pen and pencil and try to add the component so that it fulfill the complete user story from to end user. So yeah, that's all about basics of UI design. So any questions? Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, Om Prakash, just a query. You talked about that material UI or something. Is that a tool or something which is used for mocking up those UI components?
No, I given example for the
Okay.
try to use that modernized interaction.
Okay.
rather than traditional. Say for example, traditional components are not effective way of use the same interaction which I showed in a past slide.
Okay. Okay.
So if you are communicating any sort of the interaction, try to explore what is available in the market so that you can get rid of the so many clicks. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that is advantage.
Okay. Uh, Om Prakash, one more question. How do we in most of the user stories, of course, the diagrammatically we can talk about the interactions and we can show the different diagrams, but how do we describe those components in the user stories? Is there any way? Is there any common terminology that we use? Say, for example, like a hamburger, meatballs, is there some terminology which has to be used for describing those components in the user stories?
There is no specific terminology.
Okay.
If you have a story, so what actually the user is going to do with this user story. Okay,
Okay.
so you have a already application. So this is one of the user story you have to fulfill. Then
Mhm.
you are trying to create the flow diagram. So why I am recommending to create a flow diagram is you are including this user story with the existing application. Okay, so this flow diagram bring all the possibilities, whatever the navigation. Okay, you can build there using UFD, Universal Flow Diagram.
Okay.
So if you are not connecting this user story with the existing uh, application flow, again it is very difficult to arrange these flow with the user story. So it is always try to create the user story so that you can understand, okay, these are the navigation I have right now in the my application I'm drawing. So this is the my end goal. So how I am connecting. So once I connected, then create the UI. So whatever the UI you feel, so that you can visualize and communicate again with the team or anything, so that it is really connecting with the application or not.
Uh,
Yeah.
Hi, Prakash.
Yeah.
Karuna, I think just taking Madan's point further, I think what he meant to ask is so many times I understand you're asking us to create a story and all that. So
Yeah.
the flow obviously establishes like the data points, how the data flows go, how the functionality flows, and then the screens is a visualization of how the screen, so that the business gets a picture of what we are proposing. But
Yeah.
then from what happens from the DA point of view, right? We like he said, right? We call it a hamburger menu. So sometimes we call it three dots. There are three vertical dots, three horizontal dots. What do we call it? We need to understand, or at least an industry terminology, which would
Hmm.
have like speak in the sense that a UI person will understand it, a BA would understand it, as well as a client would understand it. We want that kind. We were like hoping for that kind of UI jargon per se, so that when we represent it in stories or in diagrams, everybody is using the same language. Otherwise, it takes, even though if I'm drawing that on pen and paper, what essentially happens is I again have to explain to the UX person, because he's not, I've called it something else, like probably I've called it something else and he's not understanding it, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So if we could get a, I mean, if you don't have it right, maybe for the next session, or maybe you could just direct us to some links which, could we could familiarize ourselves with the very basic. Like for example, in your presentation, you said hero banner or a hero image. So
Hmm.
we don't know. Like for me, I mean, I understand, but any other, if you can ask this forum, they will not know what a hero image is.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah.
something like that, just the main parts of like the main UI components. What are the different types that can of controls, basically, if I can say that. What are the names that we could call it? A common industry standard names, not like any specific.
Yeah. The once. Yeah, thanks, Karuna, for elaborating it. What I meant exactly was that how do we communicate? Of course, in a diagram we can have those dots, but when we are presenting it to the user, or or presenting it to the, or talking to the person, because most of the time it happens verbally with the image. So
Right.
and when we put it in the story also, we need to say that, when he clicks on, say, we usually use all those meatball analogies. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
but most of them do not understand that. Then we'll have to go and show them through the visual diagram. And as you rightly said, yes, visually that's the only way you can show a UI. But to
Yeah.
describe a UI also, if we have a kind of a common terminology, it would help.
Okay. Yeah. So there is a tricky in the technology. So the terminology is keep changing. Say
Okay.
for example, I said hero banner and
Yeah.
hamburger. So a few of the well standard, but a few of the well going forward is keep changing.
Okay.
So as I mentioned in the earlier screenshot, where let me go back to my the screens here. This is a screen where I am describing the keeping the arrow. So what actually it is meaning? As you said, so if you want to give a descriptive manner, it is very helpful. So
Okay.
it is always communicating. So this step is very crucial. So if you create any sort of this design, okay, it is not giving anything because it is just a standard screen. But if you are describing with the arrow pointing that, hey, this is the action, this is the description, this is the thing is going to happen with the next click, so
Okay.
they can understand. So no need to use any terminology which is complex. Use a simple terminology where everybody can understand.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a list of library of UI components which are available, which keeps which you keep updating, or Learning Mate uses a set of, these are the components and this is how the components should be, if it is, I say, a drop down, or if it is defaulting of a date time. So is there any standard for UI components?
Standard, I cannot say there is a standard because it
Okay.
is keep moving every decade. So
Okay.
say for example in this UI component, so I never seen this kind of component previously. So
Okay. Okay.
these are looks like complex, but
Mhm.
when you are start using, so it is very powerful. So you can follow whatever the any design system which is available. But right now I'm giving this is one of the example material UI which
Okay.
is widely using.
Oh,
So
okay.
you can see in the left section where how the autocomplete button and button group checkbox is. You can go and explore here. You can see the
Okay.
lot of modern components how it is working.
Okay.
But as I already mentioned, that modern components are more effective than traditional.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So this is the best example where you can pick and explore, and you can anyone reach out to me. I can help you to how to make a components or any sort of a design.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Om Prakash, I just came across something. If you could just open it for, I mean, the benefit of everybody. I think this is what we were expecting, and you just let us know if this is good enough for us to consume. Like, can you just click on the link within the meeting? The meeting.
Okay. Yeah.
So something like this, which just sort of helps us understand UI language.
Okay. Complete UI glossary. Okay.
Yeah. Like if you just scroll down, right? If like you can keep
Accordion.
scrolling. You have accordion, then you have, so you have donor menu, like you have your hamburger, bento menu, breadcrumb. So like when we speak breadcrumb, right? Many developers might sometimes, like, I mean, breadcrumb is pretty layman. but other things like if we could just, is this something we can refer to as a this, because it seems pretty standard.
Yeah. Whatever I am seeing, these elements are available. Whatever I described. So
Okay.
where it is just listed and describing, where whatever I propose this one, where you can interact actually.
Yeah, those are this is like essentially your UI components within a system where you have like functionality built in,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
but the depiction of that, what do I call it, what is the name of the UI component? What you're showing me here is a custom UI component, right? Or an autocomplete. It's actually autocomplete is, it can be represented in different ways. I can have an input, I can have this, so it can be represented in many different ways, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
The UI can be different, right? The UX can be different, but the UI control will still be called autocomplete, right? I will still call it autocomplete. The way I make it function is different.
Mhm.
So that's this a slight difference, which is in. Acha, somebody's like asks the question.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Hi.
Yep.
This is Zina. I have a question for you, Omkar. Sorry,
Yeah.
Omkar. So sorry. So basically, as per your experience in the past, if you could just tell us that as a UX person, would you prefer or would you like the BA to roll on you the wireframes in terms of a rough sketch or a pen paper approach? So basically, see, I know that BAs have multiple mediums through which they can create rough wireframes, right? So that
Yeah.
some of the high fidelity diagrams can be then later passed on by the UX people. But to begin with, if they want to tell you or express you that this is how the flow should be, they are comfortable to do it via multiple prototype tools that we've got, right? One of the prototype tool is our traditional method, that is you just pick up a pen and paper and then you just try to create a visualization diagram that says, hey, this specific area is for image, here would be the banner, maybe somewhere else would be some other element. So
Yeah.
is that traditional way a more comfortable way for a UX person to churn out the wireframes or high fidelity diagrams easily, or do you guys rather prefer the other way, which is a typical visualization software that we use like Draw.io, Balsamic, or anything that is easily available? And I'll tell you, that's one question. And the second question rather was that, have you ever faced problems of change in the flow diagram that was not getting incorporated through the pen and paper mechanism, where, for example, if BA later gets into conversation with the stakeholders, they realize that there was a change in the flow. Now how do
Yeah.
I incorporate that feedback into the pen and paper mechanism? I think it would be a bit difficult, but I will like you to speak about it.
Yeah. There is a constraints with the pen and paper. Yeah. If we want to rearrange any of the elements, rearrange the flow, that could be, again, you have to draw. If you are, you have to rub it some of the area and you have to reconnect. Yeah. So talking about these Balsamic or any sort of the tools, that is up to you. You can use it. There is no harm. That is very easy. But I'm talking about the pen and pencil. Is very easy. Everybody can afford it. Anybody can draw it. So that is why I just suggested. And yeah, if you want to do any sort of modification, say for example, you propose some of the flow and diagram. So there is a highly chances to modify some of the area. You can communicate easily. Say for example, this is the existing flow. You can draw in a new paper and new flow, so that no need to change the existing one. So keep it that as a reference. Hey, I draw this way and I draw another way as after some of the discussion. So you have a two references where you can juggle with these two, discuss, right? So that it helps you. So don't make it a rub and modify the same set of the diagram. Create one more new. or if it is possible, try.
Basically,
Try
your
to draw.
experience says that we should have some history of existing references always whenever you are trying to, incorporate any new designs. You should always keep a repository of all your existence diagrams as well. That could be tracked as one of the, it could be used for track management
Yes,
purposes,
yes.
where you can
Yeah,
say older it was this, and then there was one more version, then there was another version. And I think
Yes.
this brings us to a very big question that I think the online way of doing it, for example, in draw.io, if I realized I had created one flow, I had already explained it to the UX people. They were almost, trying to create the wireframes in InVision or any other tool, whichever they were using. And then I realized that there was a change in the flow. And then I think it would be very easy for me to do the real-time update in the draw.io rather than I think if the version history was supposed to be maintained, we can maintain it. But I think in the online mechanism where you can just do the changes and then you do an effective communication to the respective UX people that this is the change that has happened so that they can incorporate the change. So I think, yeah, I mean, I've just got a gist of what would be, because at the moment it sounds very easy that okay, there was just a one piece of workflow change, but
Yes,
in
yes.
bigger projects the quantum or the velocity of the work is very huge. So in that case I just want to understand what is the ideal approach that you would like to go ahead with. But yeah, that really helps me to visualize. Thank you.
Yeah. That is a good point raised by Hannah. Yeah, if it is going iteration by iteration, so it is very difficult to manage these sort of screens which you already drawn. So again, you drawn and showed, and there is some again the client is saying something, or stakeholders or in a team is in a dev is not saying something. It is not possible from this flow to this flow. So what happens is increase the efforts you are whatever you are drawn. So it is ideally keep a reference and do sort of the a brainstorming and connect with the people and draw something. So make a copy 1, 2, 3 sets. Ideally it won't take much 3, 4, 5 10 sets of the ideation, right? So very first initial you are presenting your way of thinking. Okay, hey, I visualize this way. Okay, this is first iteration I drawn. You are communicating everybody, so you are getting the inputs, then you draw it. Then this is the next stage where you are again displaying all the audience. Again you might get very few, because this is the second iteration. Then you are giving the another iteration. So I don't think not more than 3 iterations a user story can complete. I think, yeah, it solves the problem, right?
Yes, makes sense.
Yeah. So any questions?
Not from my end though.
Okay.
Hello everyone. So I am.
Yeah. Go ahead. Parmita, are you talking?
Hello. Can you
Yeah.
hear me all? Yeah.
Yes.
So I have sent a feedback form over the chat and email too. So request all of you to kindly fill it up and submit it back, so that it can help the trainer to organize the future sessions more. Thank you. Yeah, sure. I will share it. The recording.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you,
Okay.
Prakash. Thanks for your insight.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye.